Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into rewiring the autopilot brain, the real science of habits. Look, we all have things we want to start doing and definitely things we desperately want to stop doing. But if you're sick of all that mystical, feel-good, self-help fluff, you are absolutely in the right place. Today we're focusing on the hard, proven science of how to actually rewire your brain. We're going to break bad habits and build good ones that actually stick. So let's jump right in. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to ask yourself a seriously important question. What if your biggest limitation isn't your talent or your intelligence or even your current circumstances? What if the real barrier standing between you and your goals is actually the invisible patterns your brain repeats every single day, completely without your permission? See, we love to think we're in total control of our days, but human behavior, it's fundamentally different than what we assume. Think about this number, 43%. Right now, literally as you're taking in this explainer, you need to know that nearly half of your daily behavior is running purely on autopilot. Researchers who tracked human behavior in real time discovered that 43% of what we do every single day is not a conscious, deliberate choice. It's an automatic habit firing off from a completely hidden cue. Think about what you reach for when you're stressed out, or how you instantly react to criticism, or checking your phone the absolute split second you feel bored. Nearly half of your life is automated. So logically, if we want to change our lives, we have to change the automation. But to change that automation, we got to clear away the garbage first. Take the idea that you can reprogram a habit in exactly 21 days. It's literally everywhere, right? But spoiler alert, it is not science. It is a complete myth. And its origin is almost comically unrelated to habit building. Get this, back in the 1960s, a plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz noticed his patients took about 3 weeks to psychologically adjust to seeing their new faces in the mirror after surgery. And somehow, that isolated observation about accepting a new reflection completely mutated over the decades into this universal, rigid rule for habit formation. It's 100% fake. The actual data brilliantly illustrates the truth here. When researchers at University College London tracked real people trying to build new daily habits out in the real world, the data showed that habit formation is, well, it's incredibly messy. On average, it takes 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic. But look at that variance. Depending on the person and just how complex the habit is, it can take anywhere from a lightning-fast 18 days to a slow, grueling 250 days or more. So there's no magic 21-day deadline for change. There is only repetition, consistency, and time. That brings us to the second myth we need to totally demolish. This idea of the subconscious as some mystical, secret vault of power you have to unlock with just the right positive thinking. The reality is far more mechanical, and honestly a lot more explainable. Your brain is simply a hyper-efficient prediction machine. It's constantly trying to conserve energy by building mechanical shortcuts. It does this so it doesn't have to consciously think through every single action you take every single day. It basically just wants to automate everything. Which leads us to the actual undeniable science happening inside your skull right now, neuroplasticity. This is your brain's incredible ability to physically reorganize itself in response to repeated experiences. Every single time you repeat a thought or an action, the neural pathway associated with it gets just a little bit stronger, a little more efficient, and a little more automatic. I really want to stress this point. This is not a metaphor. It is structural. A brain that has repeated a behavior 1,000 times is literally, physically different from the brain that just started on day one. This structural change is exactly where the psychological habit loop is born. And it happens in 3 really simple steps. First, a cue in your environment triggers a behavior. Second, that behavior produces a specific outcome. And third, if that outcome feels rewarding or even just relieves a bit of stress, your brain quietly files that whole sequence away for future use. It effectively says, okay, that worked. Let's do that automatically next time so we don't have to burn energy thinking about it. So the crucial point here is how dopamine actually works in this loop. We always hear dopamine described as a pleasure chemical, right? But that's a massive oversimplification. Dopamine actually acts as a signal that predicts a reward. Over time, as a habit forms, dopamine stops firing when you actually get the reward and starts firing the very second you encounter the cue. This is exactly why simply hearing your phone buzz triggers an intense craving to check it before you've even seen the screen. Your dopamine is spiking at the cue, practically compelling you to execute the behavior. Now, if cues drive dopamine, then environment basically dictates everything. Consider one of the most famous findings in habit research by psychologist Wendy Wood. She studied people who successfully lost weight and actually kept it off. The secret? They weren't the people with the most superhuman willpower. No way. They were the people who ruthlessly changed their environments. They created totally different routines, took different routes through the grocery store, and completely changed their kitchen layouts. They made the old cues completely disappear. Elite athletes do the exact same thing, by the way. They rarely rely on raw motivation. Instead, they build tight environmental routines, the exact same warm-up, the same pre-game rituals, so that executing under extreme pressure requires zero conscious decision-making. So, how do we actually put this into practice? Well, it starts with a fundamental shift in identity. Saying, I want to read more, focuses entirely on an outcome. But saying, I am a reader, that shifts your identity. Behavioral research consistently shows that when a habit is tied to your sense of self, it becomes remarkably more durable. The behavior stops being this daily, exhausting decision you have to agonize over, and it starts being a natural expression of who you genuinely believe you are. Once you have that identity shift, you need a strategy, and one of the absolutely most effective ones out there is called habit stacking. This just means you don't try to randomly insert a new habit into your day. Instead, you attach it to an existing behavior that is already completely automatic. For example, immediately after I pour my morning coffee, which, let's face it, is absolutely going to happen no matter what, I will write down one thing I'm grateful for. See, pouring the coffee is already a deeply ingrained automatic habit. By stacking, you turn that existing guaranteed action into a reliable cue for your brand new behavior. It's like a giant puzzle perfectly clicking together. Combining all of this gives us a highly practical framework you can start using today. Number 1, design your environment before relying on willpower. Why? Because willpower is a highly depletable resource. Hide the junk food, put your gym clothes out the night before, make the good choice the easy choice. Number 2, repeat deliberately and expect a plateau. Remember that 66-day average we talked about? Your goal isn't perfection. It's just showing up again after a missed day so the pattern continues. And finally, number 3, protect your sleep. The physical neural reinforcement of these new habits, the actual structural rewiring, happens substantially while you are asleep. Chronic sleep deprivation physically impairs your brain's ability to lock in the changes you're working so incredibly hard to build. Now, even knowing all this, change is hard. Let's examine exactly why people fail, because honestly, understanding these pitfalls is immensely reassuring. First up, unrealistic expectations. People quit at 3 weeks because of that silly 21-day myth, right when the science says they are still in the absolute hardest phase. Second, relying on motivation. Motivation is just a feeling, and feelings fluctuate day by day. Systems and environments don't. Third, ignoring emotional triggers. Under stress, old automatic routines are absolutely going to resurface if you haven't dealt with the root cue. And fourth, decision fatigue. Every choice you make drains the exact same cognitive battery. If you rely on constant willpower instead of environmental design, you will eventually just run out of gas. Hear me on this. Failing to build a habit isn't a flaw in your character. It's just a broken system. Now, what's really interesting about this is the paradigm shift it creates. Your brain was never designed to make every single action a fresh, agonizing decision. It was designed to learn, to automate, and to turn your repetitions into sheer instinct. This isn't some flaw you have to fight against. It is the exact beautiful mechanism that makes lasting transformation possible in the first place. You rebuild yourself the exact same way you were built to begin with, one single repetition at a time, until what once took incredible effort simply becomes who you are. So, what is the one tiny environment change you are going to make today to start your rewiring process? Think about it. Thanks for exploring this explainer with me.